Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey there, everybody, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. It's time for the first look. It's when Alisha Hunt and I go and talk about the main slate in DFS, trying to win $1 million like Alisha's already done. We're trying to win another $1 million for her and my first mill. But Alisha, last week, it felt like if you didn't have the Bills defense, you weren't going to win that $1 million. I like the Bills, but I like the discount on the Commanders defense. Was I way off there?
No, I picked them too. I had the Bills in a couple other lineups, but not in the right one.
I know. It's the story of my life. I hadn't. Yeah. And then a Chan, which is, he wants to be called A-Chan, not Chain. So you got to get that right. A Chan basically also, I thought he would play. I thought he'd get some carries, but I had the Dolphins stack with Hill, Mostert, and Tua. I mean, there are people who won tons of money because they played that. Do you think those lineups can ever be counted on, or those just luck?
That's luck. I mean, a lot of winning the milli is luck. I mean, you have to have a situation like that happened. Anybody that says it's not partially luck is wrong. Same thing when I won my milli, I had the Cleveland defense and they went for 30 points as well. So, it's sometimes you pick the right ones and sometimes you don't, All
right, let's kick it off with going back to the Dolphins again. They're playing the Bills in what should be a very high scoring game. If I'm looking here right now, it's about 28 for the Bills, 25.5 for the Dolphins. Vegas loves this game. Do you like Tua as much on the road in Buffalo as you might at home?
No, I think I'll probably have a little exposure to both these quarterbacks, but I think I like Josh Allen a little better this week.
Okay. Do you like James Cook has done a really good job. He just hasn't scored. I mean, he's at like that 6,400 range where it's actually fairly priced, but if he finds the end zone, it's a bargain. There's Diggs, there's Gabe Davis. How do you see yourself stacking the Bills this week?
I actually like Gabe Davis. I think I'm going to pick some of Gabe Davis and then maybe throw in some of the tight ends. I know Kincaid and Knox, they're both getting looks, but tight end's rough this week. So might throw those in for a stack and then maybe run it back with somebody that we can fit in from the Dolphins.
Waddle should be back this week. Do you mind paying up for Tyreek? I look at Waddle and thinking he may be undervalued because people forget how good he is.
Yeah. Tyreek is so special that I think he can get some of it. If you can fit him in, absolutely. Waddle being back may take some looks away from him, but I mean, Tyreek is just so special.
All right, let me talk about a game that doesn't feel special, but it may be really fantasy friendly. Minnesota and Carolina, two teams who the Vikings can't stop anybody. And by the way, Carolina can't either. So I don't usually like Kirk Cousins on the road. I love him way more in the dome. But I think I can get behind. I mean, if Andy Dalton is starting, I can get behind Dalton. Adam Thielen, the revenge narrative. Justin Jefferson with no J.C. Horn. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I really like this game. I think it's going to be underlooked a bit. And Kirk Cousins, again, he's my fantasy football player. I love him. He gets points every week. I think he's solid. And Jefferson's another guy like Hill. Like he can get open and he can get that ball when you need him.
Now, you mentioned Cousins being solid. So when I think of Kirk Cousins, I think he's like the human floor, right?
Yeah.
The ceiling does exist, but he doesn't have that mobility. He doesn't have that Justin Jefferson, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts. I can get 40 points, but it always feels like he's locked in at like 25. Yeah. Can you take down a tournament with 25?
Sure. Absolutely. As long as you've got some other pieces that go off. Absolutely.
I'm with JS here. I'm praying for Andy Dalton to start. I think they looked so much better last week with Dalton than they've looked with Bryce Young. And I like Bryce Young. I'm a big fan, but it seems like he's throwing over the line. Dalton was looking down the field. He saw Chark. He had Thielen. I mean, he really had command of that offense, Alisha.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think, in my opinion, I think Andy Dalton should start, and I think Bryce needs to sit back and watch a few games. I don't think he's ready.
Let's assume Bryce Young starts.
Yeah.
Do we play any Panthers in this game, or do they lose all value because he's out?
I think Miles Sanders might have a decent game. Again, I don't love him. I just don't. There's something I just don't love him, but I think he might do well this week. Thielen's been doing well. He did well with Bryce the week before Andy was in, so you might go with him. I don't know if you go with anybody else if Bryce does start.
I have zero interest in Miles Sanders. I'll tell you this. Josh Kelly didn't run very well against the Vikings. And in week 1, Rashad White didn't run very well against the Vikings.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe there's something to the Vikings run defense not sucking where their pass defense is.
Right.
No words for that. Okay. Your Chicago Bears are playing the Denver Broncos, two teams that kind of stink. The Broncos were humiliated. Humiliated.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's a proud guy. Russell Wilson's a proud guy. The Bears are just reeling. They just look like when a team just looks like they're not putting in any effort, they just look like that they've checked out, right?
Yep.
Can we fire up some Broncos this week with maybe a Russ and Judy stack, Javonte, or is that just crazy to think about?
No, absolutely not. I think Russ is putting up the yards. I think you're spot on right there. I actually really do like Javonte Williams. My only concern is a little bit of the committee they have, but I think for his price, he'll do well. Yeah, no, you're right. The Bears just look terrible. They don't even know which end is up right now.
They don't. They really look like they've checked out. Yeah. There are some other games, the Ravens and Browns, pretty low scoring, good defenses. Steelers, Texans. Were you as shocked as I was last week with how good the Texans played? And can they do it again?
No, I don't think the Texans are bad. And I think CJ Stroud is really doing well. I think we haven't seen a lot of Richardson because he's been injured, but what we have seen has been good. But I think CJ Stroud is really special.
So can you look at this game, and the Steelers have a pass rush. I mean, that is the one thing they do. And Stroud, never really was good against that pass rush in college. He'd be like shaking if he saw somebody to his left side. Does that worry you this week? Do you think that people will be in on the Texans and maybe that's a sucker play?
Honestly, I was a little bit surprised that everybody's all over Pittsburgh because I don't really think that the Texans defense is that bad. Their run defense, maybe not super great, but what did they play Jacksonville, right? Jacksonville couldn't really do much against them.
Nothing. Right.
So, when you've got Pickett, who hasn't done great this year, I think that's going to be a closer game than they think it's going to be.
Would you play one of the defenses? Can you see yourself picking the defense here?
Probably not in that game. No.
Okay. All right. I don't disagree. All right. Two games that I think are very under the radar: the Rams and the Colts. Colts have struggled covering number one receivers. Puka Nacua looks like a number one receiver. He didn't do a whole lot last week against the Bengals. The Bengals contained him, but he still put up a decent week. Is this a Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua kind of week? I assume Gardner Minshew plays this week. Do you like this game to be sneaky?
The game felt weird when we were watching. Puka Nacua should have got more. Kyren Williams, I don't know if I'd play him again after that. What was that Monday night they played? It looked bad. They didn't look as good as they were, and but Stafford and Puka, absolutely a stack that you could go for. I think I'd stay away from Kyren Williams personally. Sean McVay was doing some weird things, and I don't know I trust it.
What about Michael Pittman? What about Josh Downs? What about Zach Moss, who's just getting like every touch under the sun?
I love Zach Moss this week. Absolutely. And Pittman, Pittman, he seems to be getting plenty of targets every week. I think he's going to go off one of these days.
Yeah, JS says Stafford is cheap. I think Stafford is cheap. He's in a dome. And, the problem I have with Stafford is he usually throws for 300 yards. He just doesn't always get the touchdowns, right? So it's like he gets you the 50, he gets you the 3 points on DraftKings, right? That bonus. But man, if he could just give us a 3-touchdown game, he'd explode.
Yeah. Was it his tackle that was out? Is that why he kept? Yeah. I mean, let's keep an eye on that injury, because that really wasn't good for him. I mean, they were getting to him.
They were getting to him, and he was getting a little shaky there.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a sneaky game here. I'm going to go back to my favorite revenge narrative. Famous Jameis Winston playing against those Bucks. Now, I'm telling you a guy I never start against the Saints. I never start Mike Evans against the Saints, ever. But Chris Godwin and I, we get along very well against the Saints. Alvin Kamara's back. Jameis could throw it to Olave. Can you find me any love in this game?
I actually like the Buccaneers side. I've never really been a huge fan of Baker, but I like him. I think he's fit into this team, and I think he's doing some good things.
Now, the Saints at home, though, pretty good defense. They're going to put pressure on Baker. What makes you think that Baker's in a good spot this week?
I think he knows he's got to get the ball out quickly, and he can do that.
So can you find love for Mike Evans? Because I'm finding my love for Chris Godwin.
No, Godwin for sure. Lattimore and Evans don't have a good past, just a good history. So
it is very messy history for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not touching the Eagles and Commanders or Bengals and Titans unless you tell me differently. Are you interested in the Eagles this week, an Eagles stack?
As of right now, I'm curious, but I'm not sold on it. I don't know what to think about the Commanders right now. I'm going to kind of see how things go and how some projections change throughout the week. But right now, no, I'm not really on that game either.
All right, let's take a look at the late games. The Raiders and Chargers. I read a very good article by a friend of mine, Hondo Carpenter, who works for Sports Illustrated, who said that Josh McDaniels is about this close to losing that locker room. They haven't turned on him yet, but if they put up a stinker this week, they'll turn.
Yeah.
Will the Raiders show up this week? This game feels like it could be very high scoring. What's your thoughts here? Do you expect Eckler back? Do you worry without Mike Williams? Devontae Adams? How does this game shake down for you?
Well, let's put it this way. If Garoppolo, Adams, and Myers play, I love the stack. And I also like Herbert on the other side. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be competitive. I think there's a lot of pieces that you can touch on it. Allen stacked with Herbert and maybe Palmer. I don't know if I'm in on Quentin Johnson yet. And I know Parham, the guy has gotten 3 touchdowns. I know he hasn't gotten a lot of receptions or a lot of yardage, but he seems to be the one that's getting the touchdowns, not Everett. So, yeah, I think it's a good stacking game, and I definitely will be exposed to it.
All right, I'm going to give you a name, Alisha. I'm going to give everybody out there a name, okay? If you don't know him, you should. His name is Aiden O'Connell. And I'm telling you this, if Jimmy G is out, nobody in all of Nevada wants Brian Hoyer playing. This kid, Aiden O'Connell, was really good in the preseason, Alisha.
Yeah.
And I think you could still run that Raider stack with him for cheaper. And I'm not against running, could you see yourself running Jacobs and Adams, or do you want to have Myers with Adams?
No, I think you could definitely go with Jacobs. I mean, he's had some not so great starts here, but yeah, absolutely. You could do O'Connell, Jacobs, and Adams. Yeah, absolutely.
I won't do it if Jimmy G's there. I see. I mean, there's something where they've thrown the ball to those three players have touched the ball like 95% of the time. Nobody else is even touching the football.
Right.
Kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Patriots and Cowboys. The Patriots are not the Patriots that we remember. The Cowboys. So here's my thought on this one. We always know that Bill Belichick likes to take away the one thing the Cowboys want to do. If I'm Bill Belichick, I'm taking away Tony Pollard.
Yep.
And I am forcing Dak Prescott to throw the football. If Dak Prescott has to throw the football, does that make C.D. Lamb and Brandon Cooks, former Patriot, Jake Ferguson, are those guys of interest to you?
I don't love the game. As of right now, I probably won't pick much of it, if anything. I might just scratch it off. I like the Vegas Chargers game the best out of that slate.
Okay, I'm not even going to talk about the Chiefs-Jets because that's a Sunday night game. I think they have to bring Taylor Swift to New York so that people will watch it. Cardinals 49ers. This game, that 4:00 game, the 49ers are going to put up 31. Cardinals are going to put up somewhere between 10 and 20. But it could be about 6:42 in the East Coast, and Christian McCaffrey just blew up my rosters, unless I roster him. What are you doing with McCaffrey and the 49ers?
I like McCaffrey. I don't think a lot of people are going to look at him to pay up for his price, but I like him. I mean, the guy is just, he's McCaffrey. I don't even know what else to say. He's so special. And yes, you're right. You can have a winning lineup and then go into that and somebody have McCaffrey and just blow you out of the water.
Blows you out of the water. So here's my question. You've mentioned you like Jefferson. You've mentioned you like Tyreek. You mentioned you like McCaffrey. You're a woman of fine taste. It's champagne and caviar for Alisha. I can't put all three of those dudes on my lineup. Who is the one guy that I need?
I think I would probably choose McCaffrey.
All right. I get it over Tyreek. I get that one. Why over Jefferson and what could just be a mess there in Carolina?
I don't think Carolina's defense is all that bad. And I think they're gonna get to Cousins. Cousins offensive line, they're not great.
Okay, so Brian Burns, Luvu, you think Cousins could be feeling the heat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this an Alexander Madison week, or do we run away from him because Cam Akers might show his ugly head?
I think that Madison will still get the majority of the work. Akers might get something, but I think Akers at some point is probably going to be pretty explosive for that team.
Okay. I've overlooked a game that I didn't mean to. The Bengals against the Titans. Mm-hmm. The pass funnel known as the Tennessee Titans. We're just going to call them the Tennessee pass funnel. Okay.
Yeah.
Burrow looked better in the second half. Chase broke out. T. Higgins struggled. But Tennessee is just that ugly team that I don't like almost betting against because they always find a way to keep it close, keep it low scoring. Are you in on a Joe Burrow double stack here this weekend?
I might do a little bit of Burrow and Chase. I don't know if I'll do any other pieces from the game, but I do like the two of them.
All right. So as it's Wednesday night, are there any stacks that are sticking out to you?
Honestly, probably the Las Vegas stack is my favorite. I think Adams can just go off. Garoppolo or O'Connell, like you said, either one of them I think is a great starter, and they're cheap. I mean, if you go with that, you can fit all kinds of guys in there.
Let's assume Eckler's back. Do we bring it back with Eckler, or do we bring it back with Keenan Allen?
I would prefer to bring it back with Keenan Allen. I think he's going to have to throw.
Now, I may have forced you into it. You like Jacoby Myers. I mentioned Josh Jacobs. Can you envision yourself going like Jimmy G, Myers, Adams, bring it back with Keenan Allen? Is that what you're thinking on Wednesday?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably go on receivers and then going with some less expensive running backs.
Yeah. See, Jacoby Myers is a guy I never want to get behind, but he's solid. Like every game, he's 12 to 16 points.
Yep.
Right? You know what you're getting.
Yep. Consistent.
All right. So you mentioned Vegas. Will you one-off? Do you think if you go with the cheap quarterback there, can you get McCaffrey into that lineup? But you said you wanted to go with cheaper running backs. Who are some of the cheaper running backs you're looking at?
I like Swift. That is the one piece that I do like from that game. The guy has just been blowing it up the last 2 weeks. Let's see, he's 5,700. I also like, where's my guy here? Javonte Williams is 5,500. I mean, a lot cheaper than McCaffrey at 9,200. There's probably some other pieces in there that you can find for cheaper yet, but still going through some research.
Let me give you some names and just see if we both like Javonte.
Mm-hmm.
How about Dameon Pierce at home? He tends to play better at home. The Steelers have that big pass rush. Could Pierce look? If Pierce gets past that first defensive line, maybe he's running for 20 yards clips if he can get behind Watt and Highsmith.
I'm not in on Pierce. I mean, maybe if I look at some other things over, up until Saturday, possibly. But as of right now, he just hasn't done a lot for me this season so far.
How about Alvin Kamara? Because I'm thinking that famous Jameis is going to throw a lot of dump offs, and Tampa Bay, you can't run on Tampa Bay. You can't really run on them except DeAndre Swift did. But Kamara will be used. I mean, he is ready to go, chomping at the bit. Can you find a little love for Alvin Kamara?
On his first game back, for me personally, probably not.
Okay, so we're looking at Swift. We're looking at Javonte.
Yeah, I like those two.
All right, you mentioned Godwin. We mentioned Puka. We mentioned Keenan Allen. We mentioned Devontae Adams. What about those Carolina receivers? Adam Thielen revenge narrative. DJ Chark showing something last week. Can we get behind any of them?
Yeah, I like Thielen. Thielen's probably my favorite out of the bunch. If Andy Dalton plays, definitely Chark as well.
Can you see yourself doing a Panther double stack with Dalton, Thielen, Chark?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be, I personally think that's going to be a high scoring game. I think it can go back and forth.
Okay, I like that one too. All right, let me give you a couple of I'm going to give you two tight ends because tight end I think is really tough. And Kelsey's out this week, right? He's playing the Sunday night game, so take him off our list.
Yep.
We have not mentioned TJ Hawkinson, but he's still there. Do we like him at all, or do we think that Cousins won't find him?
He might be he's expensive this week, but he might be a good option. I actually like Goddard, which, let's see, let me just look at their price here. Goddard is 4,400, Hawkinson 6,500, quite a difference. I think I like Goddard better.
Goddard's interesting. He hasn't had that big game yet that we know he's capable of.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you two other tight ends. One that I think is always capable of a game, and historically the Texans stink against tight ends. Pat Freiermuth, a guy that you never love, but he's like 3,400. If he goes 5 for 50 and finds the end zone, I'm getting 5x.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely going to be chalky and high owned, but I think it's worth taking the chalk this week on him.
All right, so that you'd consider that good chalk.
Yeah.
All right, what about a guy who always scores touchdowns against the Cardinals, Mr. George Kittle?
I like Kittle. I always like Kittle in any game. He's another one. He's like Kelsey, where he can kind of get open and they'll find him and he'll do some weird body maneuver and he'll get the ball. He hasn't had a ton of touchdowns this year. What did he have? One last week, I think. But he definitely can rack up some fantasy points for you.
That's true. By the way, you did mention Pat Fryermuth having a high being chalky. I'm smelling about 20% right now.
Yeah,
Early
he's up there.
Yeah, that's not good. I don't want I don't want a 20% Pat Fryermuth. That doesn't feel like a winner.
No.
No. All right. Defense. Nobody ever wants to talk about it. But when you won your mill, you had the Browns, and what'd they put up for you? 30?
30 points, yep.
Right? The Bills put up their 30. Who's this week's 30-point defense?
I want to say either the Eagles or the Colts. Those are my two favorites right now.
The Colts against Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
I like the price of the Colts, and I like them at home. Interesting. Now, the Eagles, you're going to have to pay a boatload for, and they're going to be highly owned. Are we looking at last week's nightmare with Sam Howell and buying into that? Is that worth the extra $1,200?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the best defense on the slate right now. Unfortunately, the Commanders looked horrible. I mean, they just did. They haven't been playing that bad this year. I thought that their defense was going to be really good, but they just looked horrible. And they are at home. Yeah, so Philly's at home. They like the birds there, and I think they're gonna kick some Commander butt.
My problem with the Commanders is that when they're winning, they will run the ball a ton.
Yep. And
when they run the ball a ton, Sam Howell's not making mistakes. So unless you're getting fumble recoveries, I think I always prefer teams that are losing, who are throwing, who get sacked, and who maybe there's a pick six coming my way. Can you see the Rams going on the road and putting up a stinker and the Colts all of a sudden looking pretty good?
After the way they played on Monday, yes. They looked pretty rough.
They did.
And again, I think the majority of it is the tackle the tackle was letting everybody in. I mean, they were just getting to Stafford left and right. And then they brought in another guy because he got hurt. Or I don't know the names. I apologize.
Note Boom was out, but he came back. But right now, nobody's out per se.
Nobody's out right now? Okay. Because the guy they had in there.
Jackson.
Yeah, the guy they had in there was just. It was pretty bad. I felt bad for him.
Let me ask a question about doubling my points. Mm-hmm. So here's what I mean by that. If I play, and I know they're not on the main slate, but it's the name that's coming to my head. Or actually, I'll do it this way. I play Isaiah McKenzie, and I play the Colts defense. And I play McKenzie as my last receiver. Is that ever a dumb move because I can get double the points for the touchdown and the defensive touchdown?
No, I don't think so. It's very rare that it happens, but no, I don't think so.
Like Kyron Williams is their kick returner.
Right.
So I feel like I'm getting Kyron two ways. I'm getting double Kyron. But
I've had that thought process in my head too, and I'm like, you know what? Even this guy what if he runs it back? He's going to get a whole touchdown, But I mean, what are the odds of them running him back? I mean, it seems like it's been pretty common lately, but typically it's not.
Right. That's why I'm asking that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one more guy before we get out of here in a second. Okay. I just love Rashid Shaheed at home, right? You put that guy on the tracks, on the turf. It's like running on water for him. Mm-hmm. Do you take a shot on guys at home in certain surfaces? Like, I don't want Jared Goff tomorrow. I don't think the Lions are going to play particularly well on the road in Lambeau. But when I think of Shaheed with Jameis Winston chucking the ball against Tampa, I could see something good happen. Do you ever have like certain players in certain situations that you'll look at?
I guess as far as turf situations go, I have never looked at it in that detail. That's interesting. But I think he's definitely has potential to just fly at home and be Jameson's main target tomorrow.
Right. All right. Before we let you go, you got a guy that you got your eyeballs on? Because last week you told me Mostert, and I think he was pretty good. So who's this week's guy with your eyeballs on?
He was pretty good. It's probably pretty chalky, but I love Devontae Adams this week against the Chargers.
I think that's a good. I mean, that's the game we need to be in on, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love it. It was my favorite. So I'm going to get a lot of pieces to that one. I think that one could be very similar to, not so much Denver not having anybody in the game, but I mean, a lot of pieces got points and got a lot of points in that Miami game. And who knows, maybe that game's going to blow up too. And there's some really good pieces from that game that you can get in on. I mean,
I feel like I'm overlooking that game. Like I'm overlooking the Miami Buffalo game because I don't want to go back to the well yet again. But when you have the Waddles and the Hills and the Mosterts and the Chans and the Diggses and the Davises, maybe I'm an idiot for not going back there.
There's so many special players on both sides of that of that ball, and I'm sold on Miami this year. I think they're great. I think their coaching's great. I think Tua's great. I do recall Hill saying that Tua was one of the most accurate quarterbacks he's ever played with.
He was right.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a good game, and I think it's going to be a fast-paced game.
Game theory wise, and maybe we've touched upon this before, is it ever good game theory to fade that game saying, look, maybe this is the one time in this history that this game is 21-20. And because of that, I'll be away from the 30% of people that are on this game. Let me get those 30% out of the way and let me look at other games. Is that ever smart game theory to you, or you don't look at things that way?
I guess it depends on what other games you have to play with. Like I don't think a lot of people are, like you said, the Carolina and the Minnesota game. That's one that's going to be underlooked, I think, or overlooked. I'm sorry, and that could be a shootout too, depending on who you got at quarterback. If Andy's in, could absolutely be a shootout.
Yeah, I think the three games I'm going to be on mostly are going to be the Las Vegas Charger game. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be in on the Minnesota Carolina game, and I'm going to be in on that Rams Indianapolis game. I don't know which pieces, but I know pieces will be involved, whether it's Zach Moss, whether it's Kyron, whether it's Puka. I can't imagine that game could be an ugly track meet. And I want a piece of that.
Yeah, I love Zach Moss this week. He's just good. He's been good for them.
Do you think Jonathan Taylor comes back?
Is he set to come back in week 5? Is that if he does? Was it 4 weeks that he was out?
4 weeks. Could be ready for week 5 if he's going to come back. If he wants to play, is this the last week that Zach Moss could show his stuff?
I mean, possibly, yeah. I don't know. Those are sticky situations when they sit out or they want trades, and it never seems to pan out for the person.
I know, it's true.
Which is too bad.
Well, I'm looking forward. Let's see. We have one more comment. Let's see. Our boy, JS says he doesn't think he'll play in Indy. I don't either. I don't think Jonathan Taylor comes back. And if so, this is Zach Moss's, he's showcased the last couple of weeks. This is a real opportunity. I'm trying to see his price off the top of my head. Give me 1 second here. Zach Moss is at 6,000. It's a pretty good price for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him at 6,000.
And you said you like Swift.
I do like Swift, and he's at 5,700. He's just been good.
So you're not breaking the bank. You're spending 11.7 on 2 guys, which allows you to get up to Adams and Allen.
Yeah, and then you take a cheaper tight end and find a defense that, again, like I like the Eagles, but you don't have to spend. I don't like to spend a lot on defense because that's the most unpredictable position on the whole thing. It
Right.
really is. So you can go down and pick the worst team possible and they may get you 30 points. Who knows? You know what I mean? What you think is going to go right sometimes does not. So
Right. You can't make me pick the Arizona Cardinals. I put my foot down on the Cardinals. Everybody else, yes, not the Cardinals against the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I'd pick that either.
Well, I wish you much luck this week. I can't wait to read your article. That will be coming out Saturday at drroto.com. Hunting Millions with Alisha Hunt. All right, guys, this is Dr. Roto for Alisha. We say be well and take care.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.